What is good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode brought to you by the League FFB. Today, we're going to be going through my top 36 running backs as we head into week 5 of the NFL season. Lots of information still to figure out this week. We have some bye weeks and some injuries that we're waiting on some reports for, but these are how I am viewing the players if I'm plugging them into my lineup heading into the weekend at this point in time with the information we have. So with that being said, let's not waste any more time. Let's hop right into today's video and let's start talking about these running backs. All right, so as you can see, I got 7 tiers pulled up on the screen to get through all 36 running backs here in today's video. As always, the labels on the left side of the screen are how I am viewing these players if I am plugging them into my lineups. So the guys at the top, those are the elite RB1s. You don't got to worry about them here in fantasy football going into week 5. The guys at the bottom, those are the guys that I'm looking at as flex plays only in my lineup. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of clarity as to how I would be viewing these players. But let's just hop right into the top tier. And there's only one player in this tier for me this week. It's going to be my number 1 guy, Jahmyr Gibbs. He plays on the road at the Cincinnati Bengals. This is a smash matchup for Jahmyr Gibbs. Right now, Cincinnati is giving up 30 fantasy points per game to the running back position. That's 31st in the NFL. And we all know how good Jahmyr Gibbs is. He should be running wild against the Cincinnati Bengals defense. Now, the other guys who are going to be in the high-end RB1 tier, there is 5 players that I think we can consider as those. It's going to be Jonathan Taylor. It's going to be James Cook. It's going to be Christian McCaffrey, Achane, and I have Saquon Barkley here as well. So those 5 players all sitting here in this tier of high-end running back ones. There's 2 guys that I want to talk about specifically in this group. Jonathan Taylor is going to be the first one playing against the Las Vegas Raiders. It is a tough matchup. Las Vegas has been a top 6 team against the running back position so far this year, only allowing 16 fantasy points per game. But Jonathan Taylor has been the heart and soul of this offense, so I'm not too worried about him, obviously, as my running back 2 this week. The other player that has a tough matchup is going to be Christian McCaffrey on the road at the Los Angeles Rams. This is Thursday night football. The Rams are the number 1 team against the running back position so far this year, and they are potentially going to be missing Brock Purdy. That's still TBD. We need to get some more information there. And they might be missing Ricky Pearsall as well. So could be a little bit of tough sledding for Christian McCaffrey, but he is a volume play and obviously a weapon for this team in the receiving game. Mac Jones can step up again if needed and called upon. So let's go to the next tier. Tier 3 is a group of guys that I think we should certainly be talking about. These are the low-end RB1s, and it's a pretty big tier for me. There's about 8 players in this group. Starting it off as running back 7, I got Breece Hall, followed by Omarion Hampton. Then I got Javonte Williams, Ashton Jeanty, Kyren Williams, Alvin Kamara, Derrick Henry, and Bucky Irving creeping into this tier. And we'll definitely talk about Bucky Irving here in a second. But the first guy I want to talk about is at the top of the tier. It's Breece Hall. He gets a good matchup against the Dallas Cowboys. Right now, they are ranked 27th against the running back position. They've been letting running backs run against them pretty well. I think this should be a spot where Breece Hall is going to be involved. And with Braylon Allen likely trending towards IR with an MCL injury, I do think that Breece Hall sees a little bit more of the backfield than he's seen in the past couple of weeks. Isaiah Davis would be the name to pick up if you were the Braylon Allen manager and you're looking for some extra added, running back depth to your team via waivers. The other guy that I want to talk about is Ashton Jeanty as my running back 10. He gets a tough matchup coming off of a good week there in week 4, but it's a tough matchup on the road at the Indianapolis Colts. Right now, they are a top 7 team against the running back position, only giving up 16 fantasy points per game to the group. So Ashton Jeanty is going to be an interesting player to watch after his breakout performance in week 4. I think Alvin Kamara is in for a really good week here as well. He plays at home against the New York Giants. I have him as a top 12 option in my rankings. Right now, the Giants are ranked 28th against the running back position so far this year, giving up 25.2 fantasy points per game. It hasn't been a great year for Alvin Kamara, not the things we've been used to, but I think this is a really good spot for him to potentially get back on track. Now, Bucky Irving, I said we would talk about. I think it's very important to talk about him right now because we're waiting on some MRI results for Bucky Irving. It's been rumored over the last couple of days. He's been getting some stuff checked out. He's getting some other opinions. We don't know at the time of this recording what is happening with Bucky Irving. However, it doesn't sound good. I'm going to keep him here as a top 14 guy just because, like I said, there is lack of information at the moment. But as we get more information, we'll know. I think if you have Bucky Irving, I'm going to be operating as if he's potentially not playing this week. And if he's not playing, 2 guys that I think are worth consideration as pickups and flex plays, maybe even a little bit more than flex plays, especially if Irving is not in the lineup. It's going to be Rachaad White and Sean Tucker. Those would be the next guys up for you. So So if your waivers, you still have a guy like Sean Tucker on the waiver wires and you're the Bucky Irving manager, maybe worth just looking his way in case Bucky Irving doesn't play here this week. But like I said, on Wednesdays are when we get a lot of the injury reports. I record these in the mornings, so we don't really have those yet. Those will come later in the day. Hopefully we get good news on Bucky Irving, but so far it's kind of been a little bit mysterious, which makes me think it may not be the good news that we want. Let's go to tier 4. Tier 4 is those safe running back 2s. Coming in as my running back 15, and for the next 6 guys, it's going to be Cam Scadaboo, Trey Benson, Travis Etienne, Kenneth Walker, Quinshon Judkins, and Chuba Hubbard is the final player in this tier. We should talk about a couple of these guys because there are some good matchups in this tier that we can take advantage of. Cam Scadaboo is one of the guys that we should take advantage of here on the road at the New Orleans Saints. It's a good matchup for him on paper. Right now, the Saints are ranked 25th against the running back position, giving up 22.6 fantasy points per game. He is seeing a majority of the workload here with Tyrone Tracy out of the lineup. I think as long as Tracy is out of the lineup, Scadaboo is a very safe running back 2 in our lineups. Trey Benson's another player that I want to talk about, and it's because he does have a good matchup versus the Tennessee Titans. Right now, they're ranked 29th against the running back group, giving up 28.1 fantasy points per game. But Trey Benson is a little bit mysterious as well. There's been virtually no news about Trey Benson being injured, but there have been some things about him missing practice and maybe potentially, dealing with an injury here, but it's been very hush. I haven't heard a lot of people talk about it. It's just something that I'm keeping my eye on. Like I said, Wednesdays are the days we get some more news, so we'll get an official injury report here this week, but he didn't play on the final drive of that Arizona Cardinals game last week, and he's a player that I've been hearing some injury rumblings about, just nothing official from any of the big name accounts like Schefter or anybody. So he's a player I'm keeping my eye on. If Trey Benson were to miss time, obviously it's not ideal. Amari DiMercado would be probably the next guy that we should be looking at, and I do have him just cracking my top 36 today, just because I've heard a little bit of these rumblings about Trey Benson. And another guy to keep an eye on would be Michael Carter, who would be another guy in this backfield that could be picked up and flexed in a desperation type of play if you have some bye weeks and some injuries on your lineups. But hopefully Trey Benson will be good to go this week because it is a good matchup for him. But like I said, very weird scenario here where nobody's really reporting on an injury, but I've been hearing about some injury reports from some small, beat writers saying he missed practice on Monday. Let's go to our last player in this tier that I want to talk about. It's going to be Chuba Hubbard. Chuba Hubbard has a very good matchup against the Miami Dolphins this week. They are ranked 26th against the running back position, giving up 22.8 fantasy points per game to the group. So Chuba Hubbard, hasn't had the big game so far this year. Maybe he can do it here against the Miami Dolphins. Let's go to tier 5. Tier 5, I have a total of 6 players in this group. These are going to be your fringe running back 2s this week. At 21, David Montgomery, 22, Jordan Mason, 23, J.K. Dobbins, 24, Chase Brown, 25, Tony Pollard, and 26, waiver wire gem of the week, Woody Marks. Let's talk about David Montgomery because like I said with Jahmyr Gibbs, it is a smash matchup for the Detroit Lions running back room. 31st against the running back position, giving up 30 fantasy points per game. There's a chance both of these guys, Gibbs and Montgomery, get into the end zone this week, and I wouldn't be shocked if it happens. Jordan Mason's another player that we can talk about. He has a tough matchup against that very good, very stout defense there in Cleveland. This is an international game over in London. Right now, it's kind of a tougher matchup. It's hard to tell what's going on with this Vikings offense. Brian O'Neill got injured in the last game. They've been having injuries all across that offensive line all year. Jordan Mason, as much as the volume's coming his way, Xavier Scott, involved a little bit in the receiving game as well, and a tough matchup. It's just tough for me to trust Mason as more than a fringe running back 2 this week. And the last guy I want to talk about is Woody Marks because everybody's been trying to pick up Woody Marks. He was the #1 waiver wire pickup of the week. It seems like the backfield has been turned over to Woody. I'm doing that in my rankings as well. And this is a good matchup because even though you see Baltimore as a good, very good team that could potentially go, deep into the playoffs this year with Lamar Jackson, I know the wins haven't really followed so far to start the year. We know how good Baltimore is. They've been bad against running backs. 32nd, that's dead last in the NFL, giving up 31.5 fantasy points per game. And they might not have Lamar Jackson in this game. So I think Woody Marks is in a spot here where he can be very productive again. Maybe not replicating what he did last week. It's hard to do that when you score multiple touchdowns, but a decent play here as a fringe running back 2. Tier 6 is going to be the those low upside RB3s. I got 3 running backs in this tier, and really nobody of note other than Trevion Henderson, Zach Charbonnet, and Isaiah Pacheco. Pacheco's the only guy I want to talk about because it's been rough sledding for Pacheco. We've heard Brashard Smith might be getting involved a little bit more over the next couple of weeks, and they play on the road here in Jacksonville, who is a top 8 defense against running backs. So Pacheco, hard for me to trust him, and things are not trending in the right direction for him. I'm getting quite nervous with Isaiah Pacheco for his remainder of his Chiefs tenure here with Kansas City. So let's move on to the flex plays. The flex plays are the last guys I want to talk about, and there's a lot of them. 30 to 36. It's 7 players in this tier for me. It's Ramondre Stevenson, Rachaad White, Corey Krosky-Merritt, Nick Chubb, RJ Harvey, Kareem Hunt, and Amari DiMercado. Like I said, a couple of guys here that we can touch on based off of some of the injuries that I talked about in earlier tiers. But the first guy I want to talk about is Corey Krosky-Merritt. He gets a tough matchup at the Los Angeles Chargers. They are top 2 against running backs so far this year, only allowing 12.8 fantasy points per game. It is a split, a mixed backfield, whatever you want to call it. JCM, very, very hard to trust, but I still think he is the lead back. I say that with a question mark in this offense moving forward. Nick Chubb has a good matchup as well. Like I said, I think they've transitioned this backfield over to Woody Marks, but Chubb could have potential for some touchdown if they still are using him on the goal line, but not easy to trust Nick Chubb at this point in time. Kareem Hunt gets that tough matchup that Isaiah Pacheco is in. It's kind of been these two guys, but like I said, Brashard Smith's going to be a little bit more involved according to Matt Nagy. We'll see how that affects both of these guys. And Amari DiMercado, like I said, a good matchup. Definitely a player who's going to move up these rankings quite significantly if we get some negative Trey Benson news later this week, or maybe even later today, depending on these injury reports that we get. So keep an eye out for DiMercado. Keep an eye out for Michael Carter. And then obviously Rachaad White in this tier would move up pretty significantly if we had some negative news about Bucky and Sean Tucker as well. So right now, like I said, lack of injury news. Wednesday is when we get that information. At the time of this recording, we don't have it, but keep an eye on Tampa Bay and Arizona's backfields going into the week. All right, so there you have it. That is my top 36 running back rankings at this point in time going into week 5 of the NFL season. As always, if you found something today informative, entertaining, or actionable, do me the favor and hit that like button. Also, make sure you guys are subscribed. That way you don't miss any future content. When we do get updates throughout the week, we do Q&A live streams and a whole bunch of other stuff on the channel, hopefully helping you guys win those fantasy football championships here in 2025. And make sure to go join our free Discord as well. Like I said, free to join. There is no risk in doing that. And we're in there helping you guys with your fantasy football teams 24/7, 365, a community of 500 plus people that all just talk fantasy football all day long. So like I said, go join that if you want to. Other than that, I have nothing else for you guys today, so I will see you on our next episode. But until then, peace out.